You're listening to Pixels Podcast, a show dedicated to talking about all things gaming, movies, streaming, and more. My name is Pixel Sean, and I am a live streamer looking to turn online content creation into a full-time occupation. I'm sitting down with other content creators to talk about their journey, their struggles, the lessons they've learned along the way, and just to have a good time. If you do want to support this show, you can give this show a rating, and you can also find all my socials in the description below. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Pixels Podcast. We are joined today with Nick, aka Gerofied. Let's bring him onto the show. Nick, how you going, mate?
How's it going? How are you doing?
Good. We're all doing good. Welcome to everyone who is watching this live over on Twitch or wherever you are watching from. Before we do get into it, where can people find you on the interwebs?
It's pretty much Gerofied across everything. I've even got the gerofied.com domain, and a lot of the stuff that I've got is on
nice.
there. Links out to everything. So you'll find me Gerofied in Google as well. It's been around for a while, so I've got a lot of that search term's pretty much mine.
Nice. It's lucky you picked up on that one. It's uncommon these days.
Yeah, I think I got in so early that and I kind of, it's such a unique name that I've been able to kind of get it all together. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, so if anyone wants to after the podcast or while you're looking at it or while you're listening to it, look at Gerofied, just search in Gerofied. Again, all his links and socials will be in the show notes or description of wherever you're listening to. But let's just jump right in. So you have a sort of unique history in the content creation world. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown to your background, sort of what you do, what your sort of expertise are and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so it's really kind of goes back to when I was doing sales in IT. Always a gamer, really, and then did a lot of IT sales, hardware and everything. And then there was an opportunity that come up in head office to go do marketing. So I went off and did that.
Nice.
And got really more involved with kind of content creation as a whole and what was happening with Twitch at the time.
Yep.
And kind of got ingrained in that culture. And then throughout that, kind of got to work really closely with brands, gaming brands, Corsair, Nvidia, AMD, Intel, all of them.
Nice.
With trying to do more marketing development, and especially in our region, figuring out what to do with it. And everyone kept kind of looking at content creators, YouTubers, and all of that as the next stage of where they would spend their funds. So got to work with really cool people, and throughout that time, did a similar podcast to this for them for about 50 or so weeks.
Oh, nice.
Then transferred into a startup for esports and gaming. I was kind of doing a little bit of freelance stuff for website development and other things, and moved into that. And got to work with even bigger creators. So we got to do some collaborations with like Barjo, with Click Crew. We didn't really do much with the Misfits, but we kind of got to talk to them about certain things.
Yeah.
And it was just bringing deals to and partnerships to creators in our region. I think one of the biggest things that I worked on was like a full player report for a Counter-Strike team, and build out, the player stats, who to recruit, why to recruit them, from that side. Another project we did was we actually had Jackson Warren, Shane Warren's son, working with us in a content creator house.
Remember you showed me that, yeah.
Yeah, so we did a lot of interesting projects, and it was a crazy 2019 for me.
Yeah.
Doing all of that type of stuff. Then kind of decided to step away from it for a little bit, focus on other things, and focus on myself a little bit.
Yep.
And just kind of, moved on since then, and just keeping an eye on things, really interested to kind of build myself as more of like the marketer and maybe even content creator back into the space, but not necessarily from an agency point of view. So it's kind of, it's good to get an all-round, 360 view of how partnerships work with creators, but also as a creator, how to work with partners.
I think that's a really, really good insight. You've got that sort of back end knowledge. Hardly anyone who is a streamer really has that, can say that they've worked on the back end and helped other people grow in that space and had the same sort of experience. You've come with that very, very unique kind of experience. just with everything with the coronavirus and all that sort of stuff. Now, you said that you did step out of that kind of industry a little bit. What have you been doing? Has that impacted your time streaming or making content? Has it given you more time, less time?
Yeah, I guess it's been interesting. So 2020, I basically switched between 3 jobs.
Yep.
I was working in like an art center as a marketing analyst for them for 3 months, and the contracts didn't extend purely because of COVID and other reasons. Basically, like they didn't have funds available during that time because they weren't sure. There's just a lot of ambiguity across the board, I guess. Like, so a lot of people in similar positions.
Yep.
And that's where throughout, I think when I found out in about April that I wouldn't be working past June, I was like, all right, I need to do something. So I cut everything that I was doing and focused on what could I do to bring in income. And I started doing a lot of freelance stuff with the skills that I built up over the past. That included like graphics design, a little bit of motion design and animation.
Yep.
And some web design a little bit as well, not too much.
Yep.
And I started helping people with live streams as well. So there was a church in Chicago that I was working with to help build how they could live stream to their audiences and figure out how to use Facebook Live to actually do their ceremonies online. There were families that wanted to do like host birthday parties. There was a DJ that wanted to do some Zoom, like really cool Zoom interactions with his family and host the New Year's for 2020, which was really cool. So there's like a lot of cool little projects like that with people that wanted to do it but didn't have any. They wanted to be shown how to do it, not go through thousands of YouTube videos to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I guess,
and that's where like, yeah, it was a little bit more like hand holding.
Yeah,
but it kind of gave me a separate income to focus on while I was worrying about what my job would be.
Yeah.
And then I got really lucky that one of my freelance jobs in Australia picked up, and they asked if I wanted to jump on part-time, and I've been there since July.
Yeah, nice. What kind of freelance work are you doing with them, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so that's more traditional marketing.
Okay.
So basically a lot of digital marketing across the board. It's, Facebook advertising, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We have got some TikTok stuff going as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of analytics tracking as well. So having a variation background of web design and everything, I've been able to track a customer journey and funnel from beginning to end and all of the touch points. Yeah. So mapping that out for more corporate clients and education clients to understand where their traffic is coming from, what's it doing, and where is it ending up. And that's kind of, it's still, I feel like it overlaps really well with some content creators, and especially what's happening and what happened to Mixer and several other things. I think there's a mindset that I've been seeing that is slowly shifting over time, and that's like everyone needs to start diversifying.
Big time, yeah. So in a lot of my videos, I just say, and I think I mentioned it in a past podcast as well, it's no longer good enough just to go live for a couple of hours a day and have that be your main sort of content. The same thing with Harris Haller and all that sort of stuff. They're saying you need to make a YouTube video, you need to offer, content of value, you need to bring value to your audience, and that's how you grow your live streaming. So I'm very big on diversifying sort of content and the analytics. And that's something I do want to sort of touch and get into the conversation with you about, is the whole analytics side of things. What websites might be worth your time over other websites if people are sort of time constrained. A lot of conversations I have with people is they say, it's all well and good to say diversify your content, go across multiple platforms and all that sort of stuff. But then they always come back to say, well, I don't have time to make a TikTok, make an Instagram post, make a YouTube video, sit down there. I've got, X amount of kids. I have a full-time job. I have to go to the gym, and I also have to sleep. So is there some sort of platform that you would say, favor one over the other, or something that's a bit more useful to people, or anything like that to sort of help content creation and grow your brand online?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem in diversifying content is the biggest streamers and content creators and YouTubers say to do it, but they've already got a team of 1 or 2 behind them to help them do that. And this is where I think there's a big misconception, is find which 1 or 2 platforms you are doing the best on and which one's getting the most engagement. not necessarily the followers.
Yeah.
And that's where it's getting the most engagement is one metric that I tend to look at a lot more than followers and impressions. And it again, it depends on the brands that you work with, and the kind of content and the people and community that you want to build.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to, like, the biggest one so far has been in the past was Instagram and YouTube bringing the ability to find your content, find who you are, so that you can funnel them through to Twitch.
Yeah.
And that's been like a traditional thing that's everyone talks about. And if you've seen Harris Heller, you talk, or any Roberto Blake or whoever else, they always talk about diversifying that way. I guess the hard part, like with new platforms coming out like TikTok, and the whole Gary Vee mindset is always taste everything and see what fits. And if you enjoy making the content on there, if it's actually performing, then you may transition out of Instagram into TikTok, or out of TikTok into something else. And that's where picking up at the right time and getting a feel for it first, and then kind of executing on that more. But from a traditional standpoint, a lot of what happens is people do that shotgun approach where they kind of put money, or a campaign goes towards every platform: Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads, YouTube, pre-rolls, mid-rolls, all of that. And then they spend ridiculous amounts of money to figure out if that works, yes or no. And that's only normally for companies that have, $100,000 budgets or more. So we're talking to big people in content creation. Then when you look at small to medium business, the mom and pops, dads, like storefronts, the brick and mortar, that like local business, they don't have that money, which is what a lot of the streamers that you and I and whoever else around our level, that's who we are. So trying to reach to those smaller, trying to utilize what you've got with us as a smaller person, smaller audience with no budget. You have to be really have to be really kind of, what's the word? Strict with your time. You have to be really deliberate with your time.
So good time management skills.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm still not that great with. Yeah, and it's kind of consistency, and I think that's the big thing that most of the time you'll find is the reason that people don't get to where they want to be, whether it be content creation, is purely because of the consistency.
That's the thing. Like, some people will, do the full-time job, come home or go to the gym, have a shower, have dinner and all that sort of stuff. And then they go, cool, I've got 2 hours to make something. And I just do not have the energy to do anything. So they just sort of fall out of that consistency, as you were saying, just to say, well, look, I can't be bothered making something tonight. And, before you know it, one day turns into 3, that turns into a week, turns into a month, and then you're just completely fallen out of it. And then people who might have been sort of trickling into your channels or your online social media, they're just not coming back anymore because you're not being consistent with putting up any sort of content. Same thing with live streaming. If you're gonna have a schedule, be consistent and be deliberate with that, because people now, with especially my streams, they'll turn up before I even go live, just because I'm consistently going live at a particular time. So I think consistency really is one of the biggest things that can help, regardless of whatever platform that you do decide to go on, whatever style fits your sort of style of content, whatever website you want to use. Just being consistent is one of the best things you can be, just on any sort of website to help you grow. Yeah,
definitely. I guess, like, for your content, I know you've kind of diversified a lot, and you've got like Pixel Flip, and you had Pixel Sean, and then the Pixel Podcast. I guess, like, from my perspective, I'm just asking you openly, like, the time across all of those to do YouTube for those 3 channels and the podcast, and then some of the socials and stuff. How have you found it? Because I know for me, like, my biggest problem is I don't necessarily have a specific niche or game that I play, and a lot of the people that I've found that have made it really big or done really well, as an example for Australia, Pestily in recent times. He streamed Tarkov for nearly 2 years straight. And I'm not joking when I say this. It's 2 years straight. He had maybe less than 2 months off total throughout those 2 years, separate, like, across different days.
Yeah.
And you look at Twitch, sites like Twitch Tracker, and you see what days he streamed, how long he streamed for, the amount of viewers he reached, and concurrent viewers per day. And that's I did a Twitter post about it when he first blew up, and I was like, people don't understand how much work he put up before it blew up on Twitch, purely because Tarkov had a drop event and he was like the main person that had it going. Yeah. And it's crazy. He's become one of the biggest streamers in Australia purely because of that event, and has just ridden that wave, and everyone's followed him through Tarkov.
Yeah. So do you think if he, this is a complaint that a lot of big streamers talk about as well, they'll become known to play a particular game, and then when they sort of go off the game, playing one game for 2 years straight is insane to me. Like that's a lot of time. But you know, if you're growing your career on that, that's great. But the second you say, hey guys, I want to change games, that's when these big streamers say, oh, you know, all these people start complaining, saying this will be the end of you, blah blah blah. Do you find, I'm not sure if you actually have any data or knowledge of this, but do you find that people actually do tend to drop off when big streamers change the games that they're known to play?
I don't have any data on it, but I guess like the best reference would be Devin Nash and what he talks about, right? And he has the data, and a lot of the stuff it can drastically affect what game you play and when you play it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I get you've probably seen the videos as well, but there's a lot of recent talk of him saying that Twitch's meta is now collaboration between other major Twitch players.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the game anymore, it's who you're playing with.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the bigger changes come across the years. Is before, when things were up and coming, it was the game. It was, you have to play this, you have to grind it out.
Yeah.
And do that. Now it's hit a saturation level where those audiences, and you've probably seen that Reddit pollination of cross audiences as well. It's like all these little circles everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what's happening even more. So the bigger audiences are crossing with everyone.
Yeah.
Then you know, the next level was, I think, Ninja, Loser Fruit, the Gref, the recent $2 million concurrent streamer from Spain, and Laserbeam. They did 4 of them played Fortnite together.
Yeah.
And they're kind of the biggest content creators across multiple platforms.
Yeah. So
and it's crazy to see how that's kind of working.
Yeah. So I've seen that, you know, with Among Us coming out, everyone was on Among Us. You have Rubber Ross, you have Pokey, you have Ninja, you know, all sort of playing different games with each other and just having those sort of group Among Us sessions.
Even AOC, Alexandria. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have, what was the last one? The last one was Rust with XQC, Mizkif, SFan, all that sort of stuff. So everyone was just getting into these multiplayer games. And this is what I was kind of thinking. I'm like, you know, the importance of the game really isn't there that much anymore. Some people might tune in because they might like the game, but it really comes down to the streamer's personality and who they're actually playing with now. That was one of the big sort of motivations for me to do a podcast as well. It's like, well, I can see that online or live streaming is very much going to like a sort of a more of a networking sort of position that, you know, in my opinion it is. It's less about the game and more about who is streaming and who they're talking to and all that sort of stuff. That's where I think the future is going. And I don't have the stats with me now, but the biggest category at the moment on Twitch is just chatting. And that's been growing exponentially, like faster than any other category on Twitch as of late. I haven't checked it in the last couple of weeks, but over the last year or so, that has been one of the fastest growing categories on Twitch to stream to. So it's clear that now even on Twitch, like games, you don't even have to play a game at all to be, you know, in a very, very fast growing category. It might help, but it's clear that people are a lot more concerned about actually watching someone for their personality and who they actually are rather than what they're playing, unless, you know, on the outside chance that, you know, they're a speed runner or they're super skilled at a game and they're just sort of showing off that. But for an everyday sort of normal streamer, it really comes down to personality. Like if you have a good personality and you're, you know, engaging with your fans and all that sort of stuff, you can put on whatever you want. I don't think many people would actually care if you have that established community.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And this part is where it's become a lot more difficult. For someone like me, I'm not an entertainer streamer, right? I'm not the hype guy. I'm more the educator and the person that will do a lot of the how-to stuff. And I still have yet to find, especially on Twitch and a lot of the content that I've done, which direction I wanted to take it in. Because at the beginning, like maybe I'd say like 5-6 years ago, the biggest stream I ever had was a Clash of Clans launch date. Clash of Clans or Clash Royale launch date.
Yeah.
And because Australia had the game first for the first like week or so,
Yep.
I managed to like peak at 120 almost the whole week.
Oh, nice.
And that was like, do I ride this out or do I not? And if I had continued creating Clash Royale content and ridden that wave, as it blew up, as it opened on different servers and regions, would that have like made me go full time on Twitch? And that's a decision and a thing that I always thought about. And I'm like, I played it for about the week, and I got to a point. I'm like, I don't want to be stuck playing this game, the mobile game, to the mobile audience for this period of time. And it it's always a question like, if I did go, would I be full time streaming now? I don't know. And that's the kind of thing that you look back on at moments like that is like, was that another wave back then that I could have gone with?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that you have to make it a real decision as to what your morals are and a bit of ethics, because I'm not a betting man. Like I don't enjoy gambling or betting, but at that time I was kind of like, I was using my wins and losses as bets for points.
Yeah.
In a point system. This was before they hit internal points on Twitch. So you would say like, it would be like on a bot, like a chat bot, and it would just be enter amount of points. Win, lose, you get your points back. You don't get your points back, or you double your points basically. There was no redemption system or anything. It was just kind of like people were betting for points. And I was in a weird like ethical dilemma. I was like, do I want my stream to be focused about the betting on me winning or losing Clash of Royale matches?
Yeah.
And I decided I didn't. And that's where I kind of like jumped out of it, pivoted, and the audience didn't follow. And that's a decision that I live with. And I'm like, okay, I made that decision for a reason. Even though it hasn't worked out too much on Twitch and content creation, I was able to still better myself in other ways, develop more skills that not, even if they don't help in what I do for content, it's helped me better a career in something that works together.
Yeah. No, exactly right. I definitely think like, if you are going to be doing online streaming and all that sort of stuff, you definitely need to have, I guess, a personal standard that you hold yourself to. And you know, everyone knows there are certain games you can play for views. But with me, one of the things that I can't stand is playing one game for too long. I know, you know, you can play Jackbox Party and that will be great for views. Back in the day, you could play marbles on stream and that would be great for views. And I'm just started thinking to myself, I'm like, I could sit here for 3 hours and watch marbles fall down a hill and guarantee that I'll get viewers.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'd hate it. I'd hate streaming and have to pretend to be excited about watching marbles roll down a hill for the, 20th time today. So I'm like, I'll start playing things that I enjoy. It might not necessarily attract the viewers and all that sort of stuff, but at least I'm sort of holding myself to the standard to say, well, I'm not sort of not selling out so much, but not just trying to be, I guess, desperate for the viewership. Holding myself to stand and say, well, I'm gonna keep this fun for me, and I know eventually, hopefully, it will work out. But I think you owe it to any kind of audience that is watching you to be genuine from day one. You're not just trying to scalp for viewers and fake. If like in your case, if you're not the hype man, don't pretend to be that, because push comes to shove and later on down the road, people are going to start to see that isn't your personality. I really think you need to be genuine with who you are as a person first and foremost. Like your ethics, your morals, and then obviously translate that to your actual audience, because these are the people that are going to be supporting you across the whole time and building you up. If you're lying to them from day one, like why would you expect them to push you up when you're trying to grow? So
it's a good point, and that's been the hardest thing, is as well as like me figuring out on stream and on my content what are my morals and ethics. And that's a question that I think it comes down to sometimes social anxiety, sometimes what's the other, like imposter syndrome. That whole conversation comes up a lot. And you get afraid as to, if I don't follow this way, I'm going to get cancelled, or if I go this route, there's going to be a lot of backlash. And this is the stuff and the questions that, like, I don't normally say out, but it kind of you feel it internally, and sometimes it wraps in your mind. It's like, should I have said that on Twitter? Should I have posted this? Should I have? And usually, if it's a should I not, I just cut it, and it's not there. It doesn't exist, which limits a lot of stuff, and kind of me questioning a lot of that. And that's where it's like I feel like I'm a good person. I feel like I'm trying to do right, and I'm not trying to be mean or be cruel or do anything like that. And my nature is very like calm and collected. And it just the internet has a weird way of like twisting everything.
Yeah,
and
it absolutely does. It's just like, so I've sort of stopped putting things on Twitter. Like I'm not, racist or sexist or anything like that, but I'm always going through my Twitter like, how would this look from an outside perspective? Like, online content is, content creation is a big goal that I have, but like you're saying, I'm just getting like, oh, is someone gonna misinterpret that? Is someone gonna twist it this way, that way? Like, it's constantly something that's sort of on your mind. So I 100% agree with you there. It's a constant worry, and it's the pressure's always building. There seems to be kind of like an outrage culture that's definitely growing online, and you have to sort of pick your sides on certain things and watch what you say. And like you said, if not, you can get cancelled, and it's just like, that's it.
Yeah, and I think there's a fine line between having a laugh and offending someone.
Yeah,
and it kind of, this is probably outside of content creation, a lot of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. But it like, even comedians have a lot of issues with this now. Yeah. And like, what used to be funny is no longer allowed to be funny because of certain stigmas. And there's some really interesting stuff about like classifications that I think would benefit a lot of people. In terms of, we've got classifications for R ratings, nudity, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And drug use as being one as well. But there was a big interesting conversation about racism being a part of the classification system. And if they were going to be racist, they can explicitly say this has racist potentially racist content in it, relating to not to be harming to someone, but to depict history or to depict real life as to what has happened.
Yeah.
Or for comedic sense, like, if they're not necessarily hurting someone, they're hurting everyone, if that makes sense. Like, they're not targeting anyone, they're going after every race, every culture.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's what a lot of comedians have done in the past. And I think, there's a really interesting thing where it's sometimes taken too seriously.
All right, 100%. Like, that's why I sort of just stay on the side of caution and just say, cool. Like, if I sort of doubt it, I'm kind of like, nah, I'm not putting, like, I don't have any sort of tweets around race or anything like that. But if I'm like, if this can at all be misconstrued or twisted, I just go, you know what, it's probably not worth putting it up.
Probably not worth it. Yeah. And the big thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on. I was going to say, the big thing as well is you don't know who's watching on Twitter anymore. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I always think of and remember is it takes years to build up a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Yeah. Right? That's someone's quote, and I can't remember who. Someone like Warren Buffett, I can't remember who.
Yeah.
But right, that's one big thing, and it's like, you want to protect your reputation at all costs. You want to be genuine, but you also want to not be a prick, not go so far down that rabbit hole that there's no return.
Yeah. That's it. And what I was going to say was, people are getting pulled up on things they say 7-10 years ago. Yeah. So especially if anyone is listening and looking to get into online content creation, make sure you're auditing what you're putting up online. And if it can be misconstrued as anything negative, don't put it up. Don't.
Yeah.
Once definitely. It is out there, you can get records of it. Like, people know what they're doing and they can pull it up.
Like, the one thing that the only reason I have Facebook now is to go through my memories and delete or make things private.
Yeah,
it's like it's like talking to friends, like some friends. That's the only reason I have it, because I don't remember what I posted in 2010.
Yeah,
and I know I can go back and probably delete stuff, like all of it. But I was like, there's still stuff in there that I'd prefer to keep or at least have on private.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, and it's crazy how much good and bad there is there.
Oh yeah, It's just a huge reflection of just how the times have changed, and it hasn't even been that long, but it's just changed so much.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, one thing I was gonna ask you about as well, just sort of getting back into content creation and I guess sort of exposing yourself online and getting yourself out on as many sort of sites as possible. Devin Nash, I'm not too sure if you've seen the video. He's quite a big advocate for restreaming, and he actually got into a debate with Harris Heller, who isn't for restreaming. Do you have any particular opinions or preferences over restreaming or anything like that?
So we've kind of talked about this off stream and kind of had chats about it very briefly as well. I did pick up restreaming recently, pretty much the same time I think you were kind of dabbling in it, and I've been playing around with the fact of restreaming. And I had this Twitter post, and I'll probably find it if I can link it to you later. I created these images of what a content creator does or streamer does versus what a business does for a lot of things. And I think it comes down to restreaming being you get more, you're not constrained to one single platform.
Yep.
But it's more important when you do a restream is where you're sending the focus to afterwards. Not so. As an example, we would restream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and potentially something else like LinkedIn if you're a business.
Yeah.
So four different platforms. But the problem there is for a content creator, they're all of that audience and everything is technically owned by the platforms that it's reaching. You don't have any availability to contact them outside of those platforms usually, unless they follow you somewhere else or you have their direct email. And that's what a business does really well. They're really good. The whole purpose of a business for marketing is to get an audience to your website or to your email list, so you have direct contact to those customers and clients. Content creators are still trying to learn that, and I think that's where the conversation leads. And from a Twitch audience, they won't understand that. So watching someone on Twitch and seeing them only on Twitch, the Twitch audience will most likely, and this is a very broad generalization, won't gather the fact that it's unique to Twitch unless it says the restream branding in the comments or the somewhere.
Yep.
I do agree with Devin Nash in the fact that you have more options to hit multiple audiences because Twitch, YouTube, DLive, Trovo, wherever else it's restreaming to, Facebook, they all have different audiences. And from you've probably seen it as well, but from my personal restreaming like analytics and anecdotal evidence, a lot of people that wouldn't watch me on Twitch that I know in real life are watching me on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I'm getting more conversation on Facebook with people that I've had a real life interaction with, talking about the games, talking about what we're doing, what we're playing, than I have been on Twitch. And it's because the Facebook audience, most of them that I have on my Facebook audience aren't on Twitch. And you have to think about that as the same for YouTube and the same for DLive and Trovo. There's a reason that they've either shifted away from Twitch or they're only on Facebook. And that's where I think the true power in restreaming is.
Yeah. 100% agree. And I've spoken to some people, and they have said that no matter who is on Twitch, for whatever reason it could be, whether it's something more recent or just with the way that the site is going in their opinion, they will just refuse to use Twitch anymore. And what I've seen online is a lot of people just sort of hanging shit on Twitch, really, just given their last year or so. And just sort of the sort of controversy and drama they've been involved with. And a lot of people are just saying, YouTube's the next big thing, or they just refuse to use Twitch at all. And they're going to say, nah, I'm not supporting this streamer because they go to that website. So people have strong opinions about everything. Some people will say, I'll only watch people on Twitch. So I think just having that power of restream, as you say, it can gives you the potential to, I guess, capture all audiences at the same time. And I'm a huge advocate for restreaming, especially, given YouTube, and they've just implemented, I'm not too sure if you've seen it, but they've just introduced this new clipping feature. onto the website. So it's very clear that they are making strides in that streaming space. They do want to be taken seriously. I put up a video about it, but one of the higher ups in the YouTube gaming space did say that there is more on the way. So it's very, very clear that they're making strides to get into the streaming space. But whether YouTube takes over or they don't, or Twitch remains number one, restreaming allows you to capture all audiences across multiple different websites. So, especially when, for me, especially when you're just sort of starting out or you are considered a small streamer, I think the growth potential just doing restreaming far outweighs anything you could possibly get on just any one website. I don't understand people who are kind of against it. One of the big arguments that I hear is that it sort of dilutes your stream or your content. And then I show them the chat where it's all pushed into one, and everyone has context and everyone's grouped together in the one chat box, and they go, so people do see my comments, and they go, yeah, everyone's in the same chat box, really. But yeah, that's one big thing that the people just aren't sort of aware of. But again, with everyone making moves and new streaming sites coming up left, right, and center, I don't see the point in sort of being brand loyal to one when you could potentially get the audience you get on, let's say, Twitch, as well as maximize the audiences that you can get on YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Trovo, any other website that you want to stream out to. It's just creating more exposure and more chance to be discovered. And as you said at the start, if one really does start to take off, you can hone in on what's working. But I think if you're sort of at the ground level, let's say under 10 viewer average or something, just try it. Just try and get exposed and just see what's working.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. And coming back to the point of like those against it, I think back before all these other platforms started doing live streaming, you didn't have choice to choose which one, and the audience was pretty thick for Twitch for gaming content, for live gaming content, and then now Facebook gaming, YouTube, all of the other ones that have come out offer a similar experience and potentially different type of flavor to what a live gaming or live content consumption is. I understand the reasoning to like why people think you should only stream on one and not go to multiple and at the same time. And I understand where it's like you're diluting the audience to multiple different platforms, but I think it still gives you the ability to reach a larger potential audience than streaming on one platform. Yeah.
Now, with the recent changes that YouTube are bringing in, as I said, it's very clear that they are, I guess, going to be taking themselves a bit more seriously in the streaming space. In your opinion, I'm sort of putting on the spot here. Do you think, or do you see Twitch going down the same route as Mixer eventually? Because I guess to give that question a bit of context, Mixer set themselves up as a new streaming site that didn't really offer anything new to Twitch, which was the biggest and still is the biggest one at the moment. So they've said, hey, we're a streaming site, and on most parts, they were basically identical to Twitch. Like, they didn't really have too many features that were different from Twitch. So the question was, why would I stream over on Mixer versus Twitch? Like, what features are you offering that's different? And, to me, that was one of the big reasons why they had to close down, because not many people moved over there, even though they acquired Ninja and Shroud. They just didn't really offer too much. They didn't address the issues that people have with Twitch. So there wasn't really that incentive to move over. My thing is, with Facebook and YouTube, they actually offer a lot more than what Twitch does at the moment. So obviously with Facebook, you have your status updates, you have different sort of forms of media. You can do your polls, you can do image uploading, you can do statuses, live streaming, upload videos, photos, all that sort of stuff. On YouTube, you have your community posts, you have short form content, long form content. And obviously on both of those, you still have the live streaming as well. With Twitch, most of what makes Twitch great is just the live streaming, the live streaming part of the website. That sort of makes up 90% of Twitch. So with other websites having that live streaming functionality, as well as other short and long form content, do you see Twitch becoming irrelevant later on in the future, especially when Facebook and YouTube are making strides to be taken more seriously?
Yeah, it's very difficult question to answer. I think Twitch, since being acquired by Amazon, have not made the right decisions, and I think it's been all it's been all top down, not bottom up.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the failures are coming in and seeping out. And it's hard to say where this will be in 5 to 10 years time. Will Twitch continue its stride? Will something else take over? And I think you've hit a lot of great points in terms of there's nothing else besides live streaming on Twitch that people can come to consume content for.
Yeah.
And that's the big issue there is, in order to get people to watch your live stream on Twitch, you have to be discovered, but there's no real discoverability.
Yeah.
Even though it's been a big push and they're trying to figure out, with tags and with different filtering options, the audience has been trained to watch the highest streamer in the highest categories. All the top 5 to 10 streamers, they're the ones that will constantly get that mob mentality, that kind of social proof of audience.
Yeah.
That's where I think there'll be a lot of issues. And even things like the homepage, like you're not getting featured on there unless you're partnered most of the time.
Yeah.
There isn't a discoverability unless you've been in with, or you're getting more notice within your local regions. That's where I think there'll be a lot of issues, and I can't see what they can do right now that will allow them to kind of build it up better.
One suggestion I've seen sort of floating around online is with the clip feature just on Twitch, people were saying you should have sort of their own version of TikTok, but built into the app, so it doesn't take you off to sort of like a weird tangent website to view a clip, where you can go to a certain part of the app and just start scrolling through different clips. You can give it a like or a heart or whatever, and that would be a really good sort of short form content. So people who have these clips and add in a little basic editing tools and lots of stuff like text options, zooming in, some effects, whatever. But have that implemented into the Twitch app, so it's kind of like a mini version of TikTok, but just with Twitch moments. I think that's really good. But then you get into the whole DMCA issue. People are so scared to make clips now because they're scared that they're going to be pulled up on DMCA issues. So, like you said, I'm not sure what else they really could do to hold their spot as number one.
So, the DMCA aside, they're two separate things I want to talk about real quickly. The clip method that you're talking about, I use this platform called Metal.tv.
Okay.
And it's exactly that. If Twitch had an ability, like it's kind of like shadow play, but it captures a clip. You have the editing tools, small editing tools, and it even has the ability to single out only game audio when it records. So you could have music playing, you could be talking with friends, or you could be talking yourself. And if you wanted to have single game audio, you can then cut that. So like there's some really cool things and apps that have coming out that I think Twitch could use or create something very similar that would allow them to do that really well. That's one major thing that I think they could do. I really don't know what else. Like the discoverability portion is really hard. I know they tried to add thumbnails to your clips into your long form videos and try to build that portion of VODs to make them look more appealing and be more accessible, but I don't think it's taken off because that's the audience they're trying to use the YouTube mentality for a Twitch audience, and they're trained differently.
Yeah, it's definitely the audience behavior. Like people are trained to click on certain buttons in certain locations or behave in certain ways on the website, and I think it's going to be hard for them to sort of change that behavior on the website. But I still do think they need to do something, because while other platforms are introducing different features and functionalities and improving, Twitch is just kind of sort of sitting there. So their latest thing from my memory was the channel boosting feature. and it wasn't really explained. So I'm sure you've heard of the channel boosting feature on Twitch.
No.
So basically, it's random apparently, but certain select channels, if you are affiliated, it's similar to the hype train that pops up if you have a lot of people sort of donating a bit. So a prompt will come up in that same location on your chat. People in the chat can then spend their channel points, and if enough channel points are donated or submitted through the chat, your stream then can be pushed onto a recommended sort of area on the homepage. But this is the thing, it's reliant on the off chance you get that prompt to have your channel boosted, and also that there are enough people in your chat to submit X required amount of points to get your page there. So they're like, this is going to be for, discoverability. This is their attempt at solving that. I'm thinking, well, it's completely random. And if you get it and you just might have a lull in your chat, then no one's going to be submitting channel points, and therefore you won't get pushed to the front page. I'm like, to me, that's a pretty weak effort at trying to, it's sort of a band-aid solution to a discoverability issue that's sort of plaguing the website.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. And I think the main thing that is going to keep building them are the main creators.
Yeah.
And like the big thing is, I think the main creators on Twitch are in a position now where if the top like 20 of them left and made their own, they'd probably be able to make a better one than Twitch and make it even bigger.
Yeah.
And it's the same conversation that you could have about any large organization or like franchise. Like if the top 20 players from the NBA went off and tried to make their own NBA, they probably could and do it successfully because they have the clout, they have the capital to do that. And that's the conversation. It's like how long can these individual platforms, not just Twitch, still and hold and maintain the creators that have outgrown them? Like technically, I feel like Ninja could have his own platform that he could stream to and not have Twitch take a cut of any of his donations through that.
Yeah.
Right. Sure, he's got a contract, he's been signed, but someone of his caliber, he could probably do that without the help of. Right.
He definitely have the resources. Yeah, 100%.
So there's that question, and it's like, does he want to worry about that, the overheads and all of that other nonsense that comes with it? Is he just better off focusing on this, and then Twitch and Amazon worry about the rest, and here's their talent to shield to other companies and partners? And that's where I see, like, again, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and what Mixer tried to do is the transition from individual creators being more like record signed artists or labels signing artists, and that conversation as well building even further, that Facebook's now signing talent on contracts with regular incomes, and after they're hitting certain quotas, more milestone payments and all of this other stuff as well. And I think that for the smaller creator might be more appealing, but it's still really hard. I don't know what they can do for Twitch.
It'll be interesting when the new reports come out, because last quarter of reports, Facebook was just going, like, it was nowhere near as popular as YouTube and nowhere near as popular as Twitch, but Facebook gaming definitely has a very, very fast growing audience and user base, both streamers and viewers. And one of the big things that I've sort of noticed when people talk to me about, picking a platform or whatever, is monetization. I've had this guy in my DMs all yesterday talking about, the potential to grow on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, and he was just fixated on just getting monetized. Yeah. And I kept saying to him, like, if you're going to get into streaming just purely to make money, it's probably not something that you would want to do. Like, you might get lucky, but chances are you probably won't get to a point until many, many, many years have passed of putting in the hard yards and the actual effort to actually get to a point where you build a proper community who want to support you. It's not just I'll turn on my webcam and overnight I'm ninja level success.
Yeah.
One of the big things that, I sort of communicate with people is don't get into streaming because of the money. Now, with Twitch currently, at the time of this podcast, they take, unless you sort of negotiate outside of your contracts and all that sort of stuff, they take 50% of your revenue, through your subs and all that sort of stuff. Whereas Facebook at the moment, from August 2020 to August 2021, they're letting streamers keep everything. So they're not taking a single cut. And going back to what you said before, I think, for smaller streamers who are looking to have that monetization option, that might be the better way to go about it. But then going back to what we're saying with restreaming, you can sort of have your cake and eat it too. Just don't become an affiliate on Twitch. And then you can still sort of monetize your Facebook. And if you have a big enough YouTube channel, you can monetize that without being made exclusive to Twitch if you accept that affiliate program.
Yeah. One thing going to like monetization, I think the mentality of Twitch streaming and streaming and content creation in general people need to understand that it's like going to Hollywood and becoming an actor and being in a blockbuster film.
Yeah.
There's only a very small percentage, the top 1%, that actually will be Iron Man, will be Thor.
Yeah.
Right? There's not, and this is, Ninja, Shroud, that's who they are.
Yeah.
And it's not like everyone's going to hit that top level of success and everyone's going to be in the blockbuster film or everyone's going to be on the top page with a million viewers. There are so many B, C, and D grade films and musicians out there that the same thing is happening on Twitch and in live streaming content creation, that people don't necessarily get that you won't be the top straight away. And even if you're trying, it's not going to happen overnight. And I think that's where there's a lot of misconceptions. It's like, oh, they're just playing video games. I play video games all the time. I can make it. The same thing for ambition for going to Hollywood and becoming an actor. I think that mentality just needs to be more honed in and honest.
Yeah. I've had a couple of mates who try to start streaming thinking, give me a couple of months and I'll be number one on Twitch. I can do this. This is easy. Okay, whatever. Like, have a go at it. And they'll sit there, they go, oh, no one's coming to my stream. I said, yeah, I know. Like, you're one drop in the ocean, mate. And they go, how long have you been streaming for? And I'm like, about 4 years. And they go, what are you doing? Like, how come you're only getting on average, 10 viewers a stream? I'm like, just try it. I'm like, it's a lot harder than what what you think it is. It's not as easy as flicking on that camera. And that's what I was saying. My number one tip to people starting out is manage your expectations. Like, you might get very, very lucky in the 0.001% of people who start streaming and just continue to grow at an insane speed. Or you could be like, all the rest of us and just have to put in the hard yards, grind, do your content creation, network with the right people and all that sort of stuff. People look at this and just think, that's easy. It's just a video game. But they really don't understand the back end until they start getting into it, seeing that no one turns up. And they go, oh, shit, this is a bit harder.
Yeah. Networking, I would definitely agree. And I know we haven't really talked much about it tonight. But it's one thing that has made my kind of content creation career overlap with my professional career.
Yeah.
And being able to network efficiently and effectively with the right people has actually is what got me into that esports and gaming full-time job. And that's something that I think I've been very good at, going to events, and then we were able to in person, like PAX and Melbourne Esports Open, and talking to the right people, and getting to know people, and that's been a very big thing for me. Yeah, across the board, and I'm so excited for this year. Hopefully, those events can still go ahead, because I know IEM Melbourne got switched to an online only event, which is just sad, but Melbourne Esports Open and PAX, I really hope we'd be able to do something in person this year, especially in Australia. If it's only for Australia, as well, I'd be happy.
Yeah, just something at least. Yeah, I'm really bad at networking. I'm trying to get better now, but if anyone who is out there like me, who's sort of bad at networking or has maybe a little bit of social anxiety or doesn't know where to start, who to start with, do you have any tips around, how to approach particular people for certain things, or how you should start messaging, or you know, you have people who come across as sort of like sort of scammy, or you know, oh, hey, I'm live now, watch me, like that. Everyone knows that's a terrible way to network. But is there something about, you know, something that someone could do who's just sort of starting out streaming, and wants to get into the networking space to take a legitimate punt at growing? Is there any sort of beginner tips that you can offer to them?
Like I took mine's very like, I have a very unique kind of friendship group, right? Where not many of them game, so I had to find others that were gamers and that liked content creation, right? And I was trying to figure out, how do I do that? And I went through Facebook groups, went through Discords, went through all of this stuff, and eventually you find the people that you resonate a little bit more with, and you can have a chat with. And places you go to places like GG Easy in Melbourne, like an esports bar, or Fortress, and when you could be pre-COVID times, go to those places and see and talk to people in like-minded places. Like I probably wouldn't go to a bar or a club anymore because it's not my scene, and that I'd go to, unless with friends, I would go to places that make me comfortable, and I know people that are in a similar like zone or mindset as me.
Yep.
One thing I used to do, like there's that Meetup website, meetup.com, I think, and there's a lot of stuff on there that I tried out, you know, from music production to bands and musicians to content creation and things like that. And again, these was pre-COVID times, but being able to talk to people that are having a similar experience to you, that makes it a lot easier. I don't know, like the conversations usually are really awkward at the beginning, and they're always going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone that's going to not feel awkward at the beginning. But once you figure out what your favorite games are, or what your favorite streamer is, or what monitor or graphics card or computer you have, then you kind of start to find things that you're striding on, and you've got similarities, and you don't like, you like. It's kind of like finding an Xbox versus PlayStation person, or an Apple versus PC, or an Apple versus Android. Yeah. Once you have those kind of
common
similarities,
grounds.
It's a little bit easier. It breaks the ice, and then you start to learn more about them. And I don't know, there isn't really like a question or like a way to do that. It's just kind of comes naturally over time, and most of the time you will sense if you're comfortable around that person or not.
Yeah.
And for especially like for me, the social anxiety portion is kind of quite high. So I always feel like I'm not really welcome in certain circumstances. But trying to break that ice and get to know people is the part that I've become a lot more accepting of. And that, in those situations, they're most likely there for the same reason you are.
Yeah.
And putting that into perspective has actually helped me a lot. Walking in and we're all here for the same reason.
Yeah.
And we all just want to learn. And that's been like, tell myself that as like a mantra as I walk into the door. Or like take a breath, and just kind of it sets the mood for everything.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's social anxiety, but I definitely get just incredibly nervous meeting new people, and just trying to I hate that awkward period of just finding that common ground at the start of the conversation, especially if I'm going to an event or meeting up with someone. If we're meeting at a bar, I'll try to get a couple of beers into me first, just to sort of get a bit of liquid confidence in me. Just because I'm like, if it's gonna be the first meeting and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, mate, if it's gonna be awkward silences and we have no common ground, it's just I find that I talk a lot more, and I'm sort of easier to sort of converse once I have a couple of beers in me, just to sort of like calm down a little bit and go, okay, as you said, they're here for the same reason. They might be feeling the exact same thing as me. It's all normal. And it's just a friendly conversation. It's not like a job interview or anything like that. But I think that is one of the big key points to take home is, as fast as you can, try find that common ground, so then you can have a natural and organic feeling conversation where it's not so much of I'm networking for business. It's more that, hey, we can now build a relationship or even a friendship because we have a common interest, and just continue to develop that from there. One of the big things that I've sort of experienced from streaming is, with people I meet who are also streamers, we automatically have that common ground. We all want to grow. Yeah. We're all trying to build community. So we've already got that space. We're already networking. We're cross-pollinating audiences and all that sort of stuff. So that's been really easy. And this is why I wanted to do something like this with the podcast as well, is that it's mainly based around content creation and all that sort of stuff. And if I'm getting other streamers on here who are streaming, making content, there's that common ground already. So I find that number one takeaway to network is just to try find that common ground on, whether it be a particular game or opinion or activity, hobby, whatever, and just run with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to go through the chat, see if anyone has any questions as well.
Oh, good.
We have cracked the hour mark, so I think I won't hold you for too much longer. Now, with regards to the tips, we discussed that, but is there something, I guess, on the flip side of that? Are there things that you see people do where you're just like, mate, stop doing that? Like it's harming, whether it's harming their growth or harming their potential to grow. Is there anything that you see people do quite often where someone with your sort of industry experience or your background, you just know never works, and it's more of a waste of time for them to do that? Do you see that as someone with your background?
So I guess like from a live streamer, a content creator, or
so from I guess someone who's trying to grow their content online, I guess from a live streaming perspective, and also just general content creation, are there things that you see where people are definitely making the effort to try to grow, but from your experience, you go, you know what, that's never going to work?
Yeah. I'm probably prime example for some of this, right?
Yeah.
I've got a lot of these highly developed skills across graphics design, across animation, motion graphics, web design, and that right there is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a kind of jack of all trades, master of none, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because it's gotten me to the position I'm in today, and I understand the methodology of everything, and I can talk to a graphics designer, animator, web designer, graphic developer, and help them with that stuff. From a content perspective, similarly, I have like the ability to go live, set up all of these animations with that, the overlays and thumbnails for YouTube content. I can do it all myself, right? I taught myself how to do that for over years and years and years of practice. The problem with that, and the thing that I found for me, is I have yet to find the niche where I want to dive into more for my audience to grow.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the biggest problem. Is answering that question earlier on will help with the development of what your individual mission statement as a content creator is. And there's this term and phrase coming around that I've listened to in other podcasts, is kind of not your mission statement, but your, I don't want to botch it, but I can't remember what the exact terms are, but it's like your reason for being, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So why do you do what you do? And once you define that more, that's when it becomes a lot more clear. And like I said before, I'm not the hype guy. I think I am more lean towards an educator, and my temperament and my kind of demeanor is very calm and collected. And I'm not going to be the one that's like, let's go, boys, like let's do that, let's do this, right? That's not me. And I tried it. Like sometimes I try, but it's small glitters of that comes through, but it's not a focus. And it's being more self-aware about that has taken me, I would say, 7 years to figure out.
I think that's a great point. People try to mimic successful people, but they don't share the same qualities or personality traits as the people they're trying to mimic.
Yeah, definitely.
I look at them and I'm thinking, that just must be exhausting, that you're trying to mimic someone who doesn't have, your personality traits, isn't at all like you, but you're trying to be like them to become successful. So I think that's a really good point. You have to know yourself and be true to who you are in order to sort of find your niche and your place in this sort of streaming space.
Yeah, and it probably it extends past streaming as well, right? With anything. I honestly, like, as you were saying these, I was like, you have to go watch the new Pixar or Disney movie Soul, because that, if anything, helps you at a very basic level understand how someone finds what they are and what they want to do.
I definitely do want to watch that. I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch that. But yeah, I just see people and I'm like, yep, you're copying that streamer. Yep, you're copying this streamer. But it's the thing, like we said at the start of the podcast, you have to be genuine to yourself, and also an extension to that is also being genuine with your community, whether it is content creation, or whether it is live stream. I guess with making YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff where you can put a bit of production behind it, you can cut up a 10-minute video and essentially put it on. You can create a character and you can be that character for 10 minutes. Live streaming, on the other hand, it's very, very hard to keep up that sort of fake persona. And I see a lot of people struggling with that. They might do YouTube and then come over to live streaming and they go, well, crap, I have to be this character for 3 hours. I'm used to only being that for a 10-minute video. Now I have to keep that up. And you see that, people aren't as interesting or aren't as hyped or energetic in the live streams, obviously because it's a lot longer, but they've very clearly put on a character or put on, how actually excited they are about certain things. And when it comes over to live streaming, it really shows, I guess, who the true character is. But I think in a space where there are a lot of sort of hype people and all that sort of stuff, I really do think, like for you especially, there's a massive, massive space to fill in for educators and people who are calm and collected like yourself. Like I very rarely go to streams where people are yelling and screaming. I much prefer to watch people who are just sort of peaceful, quiet, actually informative, who have worked in the space like yourself, because I'm thinking, okay, cool. They're not shouting my ear off, and they've also worked in the industry, so they know what they're talking about. And to me, I think there's a huge, huge space, especially for you, as I said, where educators are needed, especially with all the changes that are going on, and with your past history and all that sort of stuff with networking. There's definitely room for educators, and I'd hope that there actually are more educators and streamers like you who get on live streaming, just to sort of balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, I think like you can see that the rise of Harris Heller and like things like Ashley Krassen's Stream Coach and people like Roberto Blake and all of the kind of how-to channels for content creation and YouTube live streaming, those have blown up because of COVID, I would say. And during that time, because people were at home, they were trying to figure out what else can they do during that time. That was where I was like, I want to lean into that a little more. And they're all people that I follow and watch almost on a daily basis, or listen to, podcasts and videos and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of person or content or crowd that I'm leaning into. And even though it's like, I'm still going to be doing gaming content because I enjoy it, and that's what I want to do. I think my skill set and my, like you said, my perspective on things has a different view to help educate on how to do certain things. Not necessarily be the greatest headshot in the history of a game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we do wrap up, one game that I do see you playing a lot is Slapshot.
Yeah.
I personally never heard of this game. So for those of you who are listening, it's called Slapshot. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you have a little bit of a history with this game, and you've actually done some of your own animations and all that sort of stuff. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I personally find that really interesting, and what you've come up with. I could never create that in a million years. It just looked awesome.
So Slapshot 1 was released March 2019, and this was when I was working in the startup, and I was like just looking through free games that were out, because it was tight for budget because we're in a startup, obviously. And just kind of looking at other things to play, and I was like, all right, I really want to play a hockey type game. So I typed hockey into Steam. This game come up as new release. I'm like, it looks all right, I'll jump in. And it turned out to be one of the, like for me at least, one of the easy to pick up, most complex to master games
Hmm.
I've played in a long time. And the general concept is you move the mouse or the right thumbstick to move the stick around your body, and the WASD and the left stick to move your character around the ice.
Yep.
As that's basically the controls. There is no button press to hit the stick. You have to literally swing your mouse like you would, move a first-person shooter left to right to do it. So with it, yeah, it's a very interesting game mechanic.
Really? You make it look really easy.
Well, this is after like 150 hours playing that one game.
Yeah.
And the competitive nature in me, like you'd know. So history. Sean and I used to play basketball together when we were kids.
Yep.
And that competitive nature, I still have a little bit of it in games. Like I need to play something competitive sometimes, or multiplayer at least, to actually enjoy. So I actually played in the OCE community has a decent community around it. So that's kind of, I found it. They were actually being advertised in the game, so they had dev support. There's only a small group. It's a really indie game. And there's a whole league. There are leagues in North America, Europe, and OCE around this game. And as of, I think, last month or the month before, they actually launched Slapshot Rebound, which is their successor. And I highly recommend it. If you can get past the learning curve, like the base mechanics are pretty simple to pick up, but the way to master it is long.
Yeah.
And I was actually considering doing how-to content on how to do like certain movements, or how to increase the stick handling skill and take the right shots and all of that. Because there are some out there already, but this is the same thing. Like I feel like I could do them better.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. It's like Slapshot is a game for me because I played so much Rocket League. It was something else to jump into for free when I didn't want to purchase something else, and I literally just stuck with it.
Yeah, it's but like when we were discussing it, I definitely see a massive potential in the game, especially when you have the competitions and there's a multiplayer sort of aspect of it. If you can get a couple of big streamers on that and they'll bring their community into it, I can just see it's just going to be one of those really big competitive, just sort of like easy on the eyes, like easy to look at, kind of nothing overly complex, just those simple animations, but really addictive to watch and play. You could set up your own team, you could verse other teams and all that stuff. I think the potential in this game is just massive.
I think so too, and it's been very community driven, which is a great thing for an indie developer and indie game. Yeah, and all I said, like, I was very lucky that I've been able to talk to the devs, and they're scattered across the world. There's like 4 of them, and I said if they had the Among Us / Fall Guys treatment, the game would blow up.
Huge. And
it just needs the right person. Like one of the NHL YouTubers is actually pushing it at the moment.
Oh, really?
They've got about, I think, 50K on their YouTube channel, and they've been pushing and doing content on it. And I think in NA it's getting a little bit of traction. And I think here I did like a one post, and several people that don't normally comment or engage in the content were like, I need to figure out how to play this game.
Yeah. It's going to be, if it starts snowballing, it's just going to explode. I can see it now.
One thing I wanted to do, like, because they've got a new season for OCE starting soon, instead of playing in it, I was looking at more commentating and casting to help build the marketing collateral for them behind it. And in doing that, I actually created like pretty much like a VTuber character.
Yeah, I saw that. That was awesome. I was hoping you'd bring that up.
Based off of their character. So their lead artist sent me some reference work that I could create myself as a character that looks like it's from the game in like a suit, like a commentator from an actual sport. And I've got like a casting desk with a TV that I can play reels and highlights on. So the concept was for season 1 in OCE, or season 8 for the new game, was to get highlights, get post-match reports, and just push content around to actually build the universe and the character, and maybe persona. I don't know if I'm going to talk the way I am, or if I'm going to put on like a more commentator kind of persona for it. But it was just like, I'm going to VTube as a character commentator from Slapshot Rebound.
Yeah.
And build it out and see how it goes online, if it does anything. But also it was good for me to practice like my old university skills of graphics design and some animation. So it was like really cool to kind of pick up some things and put it together.
Yeah, definitely. And look, this is a whole nother topic in and of itself. The whole VTuber thing, it's blowing up. It's massive at the moment, but I think that's a really interesting sort of dynamic that you can implement your skills and your background into a sort of a new and upcoming game to bring like a fresh sort of take, and diversifying your content in live streams and the videos if you are going to make them. That's the thing that I don't see many people doing, setting up VTubers to sort of commentate sort of sport sort of games and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's a really, really interesting implementation of your background and your education with sort of an up-and-coming trend on the live streaming space, just to make everything a lot more interesting and appealing. And I think that really will contribute to whether you're doing it on YouTube or you're doing it live, that's really going to contribute to your growth. Even if we're going to do like an educational video or live stream or just commentating on other games, I think that's going to be what sets you apart from other streamers or video makers in that space.
I had concepts while creating the Slapshot one that what if I did one for Among Us and for Fall Guys and just had them there and with facial expressions that move with my facial expressions and do a cast or do a stream with those characters. So it's very game specific, using the assets of the game. And that was the concept. And I really think like there's an opportunity there. It just like my problem would be I need to find the game that I'd play the most to do that for, because it's a big effort. Of not creating content but be creating the animation assets for that. And the reason I picked Slapshot was because it was such a simple looking game, right? Where Among Us I could probably do, Fall Guys I could probably do, but the simplistic game I could do better. That doesn't stop me. Like if I really got into it and wanted to invest, I could probably outsource to like a freelancer to help with the creation of. And that's becoming its own thing as well. I've seen a lot of VTubers who don't know how to do the graphic component of it, getting someone to help them set that up for them. And there's a market now building on that as well.
People are definitely, I guess, getting like a small production team behind their live streaming, just to try to diversify. And every day the bar is being raised. There's this person's doing this person now has their own editor, this person now has a whole production team around the animations of their VTuber. You have people who are commissioned to draw and have copyright of their own actual original VTuber character. It's just crazy how far down this rabbit hole you can go.
And I think that as well is a big problem for a lot of people, is that they try to chase it all the time instead of focusing on what they're themselves and what they're good at and what they want to do. Comparison to someone else in any industry is like the biggest problem as well.
100% agree. All right, well, I think I'll wrap it up here. I haven't gone for 120, but an hour and 20, sorry. I definitely got to get you back on, because there's still I reckon we could talk for 3-4 hours tops. We just keep going.
There's so many different topics to go over.
There is. And it's been really great having you on. Just someone who has that sort of unique experience. We can bring in guests and people who stream all the time, and they obviously have the perspective of, I'm a streamer, I do this. But you're, as we said, you're in that unique position where you have that back end experience and you have this sort of that networking skill and people to talk to in that industry. So I really do appreciate you coming on and sort of giving that insight. I know you don't have to, but I really do appreciate that, and it actually offers a lot of value to this entire podcast and anyone listening. So I really do appreciate that. For anyone who is interested in sort of reaching out to you, if they need to, or if they want to, or if they want to see your streams or content, whereabouts can they find you again?
So I'm Gerofied on all platforms, and if you head to gerofied.com, that's like my main source of everything.
Cool. All right. And anyone else who is listening at a later date, I will put Nick's socials in the description or the show notes. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there unless you have anything else to say.
No, that's it. No. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Awesome. All right, I'll do my wrap up then. And yeah, I'll get you on the podcast shortly. Another episode, so I can pick your brain again. And I think next time I might get some audience questions beforehand as well. So anyone who's interested or wants to sort of divulge into that, that background that you have, I think that would be interesting as well to get different questions coming in. So yeah,
awesome.
All right, cool. I'll do my wrap up. Take care, mate. Have a good night.
Catch you later.
See ya. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Pixels Podcast. I really do hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that you enjoy the new perspective or different perspective that Nick has to offer as well. It's not every day that you get someone who's actually worked in the industry on the back end onto the podcast. So as I said, we will get Nick in on another podcast in the future. So if you do have any further questions, please go ahead, reach out to me or Nick in the description or the social links down in the description below. And again, thank you so much for listening. If you did find this podcast useful or helpful at all, I would really appreciate a rating or a heart on whatever platform you're listening to this on. But that's basically it for the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.